I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Today is June 11th, 2019. You are here at the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors meeting at Mitchell County Courthouse. We have an agenda in front of us. Hopefully everybody's looked at it.
I don't think the sheriff's going to be here. He
Okay.
has some training right away.
Okay.
He said yesterday he didn't think he'd make it.
Is there any additions or corrections to this? I guess there wouldn't be any additions, but is there any corrections? If not,
I'll so move that we accept the agenda and the minutes.
okay. Barb has made a motion to accept the agenda and the minutes.
No, that's a separate item.
Gotta do it separate,
Yep.
okay. Move to accept the agenda.
Second.
Barb has made a motion, Stanley has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approve the minutes and the claims. Have we read the previous meeting's minutes? Any additions or corrections to that?
So move.
Stanley has made a motion.
Second.
Barb has made a second. Roll call, Stanley.
Aye.
Barb.
Aye.
Smolik, aye. So we've approved the minutes and the claims. Consideration of courthouse emergency action plan. I guess, you and I
looked over the revised edition and I just sent Casey odds and ends, like, spaces missing or too many spaces, same with commas, a little bit of grammar, that kind of thing, and I'm fine with how it is.
okay,
And I asked Dave a couple of questions too, and he answered them, so yeah. Good.
thank you, Stanley.
So,
I guess,
unless you have any problems with it, also
No.
move to
okay,
get this in place.
Second.
Barbara has made a motion and Stan has seconded it. Roll call. Barb,
Aye.
Stan,
Aye.
and Smolik, aye. So,
While we're on this, just a quick question, is there gonna be a retirement reception at the time, when the time comes for Ray? Has anybody talked about that long?
I'm sure that will come up here at the meeting
They
tomorrow
usually
night.
do that, don't they? Oh, okay.
Tomorrow night's the meeting, so
Okay.
we'll find out tomorrow night. We will move on, and being the sheriff is not here, we'll move right on to county engineer update. Rich, good morning.
Morning. Last week, we had a pre-construction meeting for the box culvert that's gonna be placed in the city of Stacyville. Found out the schedule they're targeting for is August 26th to start. I think it's gonna take about a month to do, so that's a heads up. It's still a ways out, but they wanted to get the ball rolling so they could get the materials ordered and make sure everybody's on the same page, so. We had the city folks there, we had contractors, and we had ourselves, so. Everybody knows what's going on. T38, south of town here. Paving is done, we're doing asphalt driveway approaches that we have to adjust. When they get done with those, they'll be doing the asphalt shoulders down to the bridge, and then some of our gravel intersections like we've been doing in the past, so. If the weather would hold out, I would predict that the asphalt could be done by the end of the week, and then all that's left is to paint it, but the minute I say something, the weather's gonna break and we're not gonna get things done, so. That's the update on that project, so yeah, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we got the road back open, so. And the rock run, I haven't talked to, folks in on a specific time. I thought they were gonna try to start this week or next week, so. We'll have to run an operator on overtime on Fridays because needing somebody to blade behind some of the equipment or have somebody available. So whoever's route that they're rocking in will have to be working overtime on Fridays. Other than that, I'll follow up on the spray issue.
Okay.
I can't think of anything else to bring up at the moment.
Okay, does any of the supervisors have the comments or questions for Rich?
We might wanna pay attention this year, I'll be curious to see how much overtime happens on Fridays.
Yeah, and we've operated this way before with the rock run. So it's gonna be hard to track overtime just based on the bad spring we had too, so, but yes.
Right,
We'll
taking that into consideration.
Right, we'll know, we can pull it easy up on payroll between certain months when we have overtime.
Yeah, because maybe we'd wanna start it later.
Well-
Because didn't we start it a little early compared to before?
No, we're about right on
It was about
schedule
the
from where
same.
we normally are.
As far as starting that,
The rock run.
10-hour days, I
Oh.
meant the 10-hour days.
We're probably, I guess we've always kind of started it earlier than normal. I remember years ago, it was always kind of between Labor Day or Memorial Day and Labor Day, but yeah. It
Yeah,
seems like
that's
the
what
past
I remember.
5 years or so, it seems like it's been a month earlier, and so. depending
And
on-
that's what I meant, I'm
Right.
more curious about.
I know in Worth County, in Worth County, we're doing something different there, where we're strictly staying between those dates just because of school, I guess. And then on the days there's holidays, they'll work a 5-day week, which means, well, the 4th of July week, it'll be a 8-hour day, 5 days a week, but they get the day off for the 4th, so. They still work 4 days, but it's 4 days versus 4 days. So, I know some other counties have done that too, where on holiday weeks, because there's always sometimes there's always an argument between secondary roads getting 10-hour holidays, everybody else getting 8-hour holidays. A day is a day, I guess, to me, it doesn't, but when you start looking at it, if you're getting an hourly rate, then there's some, people can look at it in a different.
I'm sure. There are
The county
comments.
conservation has been on 410s ever since I've been here.
What's that?
County conservation, I mean, they work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 410s.
So they work weekends too, or are they on a rotation?
Ryan has to work on the weekend once in a while. Well, goes.
Yeah, they're on a rotation, I think, every third weekend, I mean, because of the parks. But that's only in the camping season, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they've got just a little bit different job than we do.
That's what I
No,
think.
but what I'm saying
They're
though is that
different.
yours isn't the only department that's
Oh.
on a 410.
I know, yep, I know that. But- So anyway, that's the update I've got for you this week.
Okay, Rich, if there isn't any other questions for you, I guess, thank you.
All right,
Yep,
Have a
thanks.
good rest of the day.
have a good week.
Okay. Consideration of financial commitment for the advance program. I'll get that out here.
Is
So
that
I'll let
Jennifer
Tony.
Andrea's program?
Yes, Avance.
Advance, okay.
Is the next one, are those kind of the same thing? Consideration of Mitchell County contribution to recruitment?
Yeah, that is the same thing.
Okay.
So
That's
are
what I thought.
we putting them together, number 6 and number 7? Consideration of Mitchell County contribution to recruitment of laborers, is that?
Yeah. Fine.
So, okay, we will combine 6 and 7 together. And Tony, comments?
Sure, you had asked to have it on this, for this one to consider if anything had occurred. There's been no change, there hasn't been any motion taken by any of the other agencies that would be involved with this. So there's really nothing new from before. I would say if you could make a motion to support at a level, up to maybe a level, that it might give us some more tools to talk with other agencies when we're coming to what we could do. It wouldn't be a full-on commitment to pay a bill, of course, since we don't have a bill to put before you, but it would help probably when we come into do negotiations if you could commit to a up to level.
So have any of the counties done anything like that yet?
Saragordo has, yeah, and they've gone up to 29,000.
Okay, but they're the only ones so far?
Correct.
Well, I imagine we're all hoping that the businesses will chip in.
And I have floated that idea with some of the employers. Their response thus far has been, well, we do pay, it's just this, by doing this gives them a slight decrease by us committing. They still have to pay the fee for hiring the person. It's just by us doing this, they get a reduced rate to pay. So they are still involved and they still have to pay the fee for when they do hire someone. So it is a shared cost already.
And how many businesses are actually?
Right now, I think there's been 3 that are working with her in Metro County. So this won't be the last time you'll see it on the agenda, but
Sure.
you just asked, if there's any changes to have it on the agenda for this one. There have really not been any changes. Again, if we wanted to make a upper level commitments, kind of a hard word, but level of support could be appreciated.
Well, basically, what has been discussed is that Mitchell County should contribute $7,000.
It was 7,500.
Or 7,500.
Was the amount, and that was our discussion based on a population of the entire area. That puts us in line with what our population is. And that's kind of amongst the other counties except for Cerro Gordo. It's about average to a little bit higher since we have a little bit more population than Franklin and Worth, some of the other counties. Again, the other counties have expressed some interest as well, but like everyone, they're looking for the funding of where they can come up with it. And there is still the Google grant that is being considered. The grant has been put in. We have no idea on a timeline of when it would be awarded. Jennifer does continue to work. She said she put in one just simple Facebook ad in Puerto Rico, and they got inundated with applicants. But she said that now they've actually removed the ad and are in the process of screening those applicants that they received, because she's very adamant about a drug test and interviews everyone to make sure that they would be considered a good employee for here.
Reflect on her.
Yeah, it does. And so she's taking her time and working hard on it. I got to meet 3 of the individuals that she's already recruited here. Very nice young people, one married couple that has moved to town and works for Grain Millers. There's another professional that's working for Grain Millers that came from Puerto Rico that I did not get to meet. And then I met a young lady that moved and is now working for Fall Construction. And doing a really, really good job. It's just really excited to hear her share her story of coming here and talking with her family, and her mother is all worried. And it was just a nice time. But she seems to be a very high caliber young lady and is working very hard. She's really enjoying her job and enjoying being here.
Who would the third business be then?
I think it was, I can't say. I'd have to double check. I don't want to throw one out that it's not. I know there's been 3 different people, and whether 2 of them went to
One place. I think
financial commitment for a Ponce program of an amount up to $7,500. Is that what you're?
That would help, yeah. And again, you know, before you fully commit to that, we'd have to bring it back. But just from negotiation with the other counties, you know, we're willing to do our part. How about you, you know, do your part? That would help.
Well, who amongst the alliance is really trying to coordinate this? Because it just seems like nothing's really getting coordinated.
It's Chad, really is.
Chad is,
Yeah.
who's Chad?
Oh, Chad, he's the director for the corridor.
He's also the Saragoro economic developer or whatever, and his office is across from Central Park there in Mason City. And
On the east side of this corridor.
but I mean, because we've been going on this conversation for almost 2 months, and we don't seem to have all of the counties getting together. Actually, are we going ahead? Are we not?
Well, and the thing is, I think he has a better feel of some of the pushback he's getting from some of the other counties and wanting to bring them along and make sure that they're incorporated. They're trying to do as much as we can to get any kind of outside funding that might help with that. So, I mean, he's a little more aware of the situations in the individual counties than I am.
Maybe that's why people are waiting, just to see how like this Google
I
might
think
possibly
the
turn
grant
out.
probably is that, he's getting some pressure on his side because the people in Mason City, they're like, see the value in it, they really want it, and so they're pushing harder, for him to go ahead and get something going with it. So if anything, they may pick up more, simply because they see the value in it, and they're willing to let some of the other counties step in. But I think they want to have it one way or the other. Now, who else gets to participate in with the reduction for their employers? It'd be only the ones that participate in the plan that would have that benefit.
That's what I was just gonna ask.
Yeah. So I think they're willing to spend more, but they would rather have other people be able to participate in it.
Sure.
So I think she'll be in this area, but whether our employers could benefit from it or not is the tale.
Steve?
Well, are you willing to contact Chad again this coming week and try to get this thing moving? Because again,
Well, I mean, I talk with him at least once a week in reference to it.
but I mean,
Again, yeah, I'll continue to go forward in trying to keep things moving. Yeah,
I mean,
because I think it's a good program.
because it seems like it's stalemated, is what it seems like right now. I mean, we can have the same conversation week after week after week that,
Sure.
So are you feeling that if the supervisors got together, it might be more productive?
I mean, I really feel that, yeah, we ought to be feeling out these other county supervisors and,
See what
I
they're
mean,
thinking.
are they interested? Are they not interested? If they're not interested, why aren't they interested? Or if they are interested, why are they interested? I mean, how long are they going to,
I mean, I can definitely push Chad to say, hey, we need to get at least a representative, and I suppose that doesn't read the.
well, you should really have the whole board, because, again, then what you run into is, well, I can't speak for the board. This is what, I mean, you
Well, we
really,
can try for the whole board, but if they at least got a representative, because that might not be realistic that you got everybody.
I would say this initial conversation, it would be easier to get if you just had a representative of your board to meet, otherwise getting everybody at one time, I think that's gonna be.
Because you could always warn them ahead of time, please have already spoken to your other supervisors, so you have an idea what they're thinking too.
And then anyone can bring the proposal that's agreed upon by those representatives back to their boards for approval. I just think the logistics of getting every county supervisor together would be monumental. I think if you could select amongst the three of you a representative to represent your interest at this group, I think that would be beneficial.
more than one supervisor wants to go, I sure
Sure.
wouldn't discourage it.
Oh, no. I agree.
I would, for filing or for notification of a meeting, just have to, you just do, you post an agenda for your county only, and then wherever that location is, then everyone does the same.
Mhm.
So it's all legal. If we all went.
Or do it.
It would be two.
Oh, you would want to keep your finger on the pulse, see what's going on.
Well, I'm all, the Advance Safe program is a wonderful thing as long as it doesn't commit taxpayer dollars. So it should be the employer's responsibility to.
Well, and I think one thing to think about this too, is, and I understand where you're coming from. I think it's viewed as a new program, and that hopefully this may be a one-time deal, that we have a one-year contract with her, and then she has that opportunity to prove herself to the employers, and that after that, then it's no longer a public program, and then it is strictly a private program to kind of help.
That's what
get
I'm
that
thinking in
over
my
the
mind too, just to get a nudge going
Right.
and then the business is totally,
Right.
it's in their hands.
So I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I think that's how I'm viewing it, as an opportunity to help the employers kind of get past the initial reluctance to the program, see some success and say, yeah, this is working very well, or no, that didn't work at all, we're not gonna do it again. Go from there, so. I view it as a one-time program.
That's in my head too, just once.
Well, I mean, I'd be happy to try to push Chad harder and try to go ahead and get invite everybody to one meeting and just have them all posted. That way, if any, a quorum shows up from each individual, and to do it in Mason City would be my guess is where it will have to be.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
If I do that, what days work best for you guys? Because that's
In that respect, I think you just gotta basically, you pick a day and a time and hope it works.
okay.
Because like you say, when you got 8 boards or whatever.
Mondays and Tuesdays generally are board days.
Okay, so if we did like a Wednesday meeting,
Wednesday, I would have more luck with,
okay,
I don't have every Wednesday open, but yeah, Wednesdays I would have more luck.
okay, Wednesdays, okay. I'm assuming that that's probably gonna be across the board for all supervisors then, because.
Maybe.
Gonna be fairly close to that, okay.
Yeah.
I will push for that, and you don't have to take action on either one of these at this point in time. Is that-
I'd rather wait,
Yeah, it doesn't change anything for us, so.
but like Stan said, it's every week, we do seem to be at a standstill.
Yeah, I get the impression that in some of the more western counties that are the ones that are the hesitant. Windworth is definitely one. They're smaller, but since it's 2 counties, their agency actually has to cover twice, which is still, it's slightly more than we do for one county, but they're smaller, so. But again, I guess they really liked it initially when they said, oh, it's gonna take 2 counties commitment. But, so that kind of gave them a little hesitancy. So again, the support's been there, it's just finding the funds. Okay,
Crystal?
I'm just, had a question. Are there businesses in Cerro Gordo County that have signed up too?
I don't believe so yet. There may be, but I haven't heard discussion of them yet. The only qualm that anyone has that direction is some of the bigger employers there already have contracts with other companies, and they're bigger companies, doing the same type of thing, but Jennifer's is definitely more personal attention, so to speak, of what she's able to bring to the table. But it's some of those bigger employers have contracts with other suppliers.
Would the plant in Charles City closing have some impact on this?
Possibly. I mean, is it okay if I did, I can share this, it's not on the agenda, but I can share it. Okay. Yeah, there's about 500 people. I've been in contact with the workforce development, and they are working on doing like a job fair type thing with, and I just got an email from their HR person and has asked for any employers that are interested to send the employers directly to their HR too.
Steve, were you aware of that company closing?
I didn't know about it until this morning.
It's relatively new.
Which company, can I ask?
I'm sorry?
Which company told
Uh,
you?
I can't remember the name, there was a
Not-
chicken
not ours.
processing plant there in the north end of
Simply
town.
Essentials, I believe is the name of the company in Charles City.
Yeah, something like that.
Like chicken nuggets for McDonald's, I've heard.
No, that's not true. No, they did when it was in its first iteration, back in the 80s.
So it's something different now.
Yeah, no, they have a full kill plant. They actually process a air-cooled chicken product that I was under the understanding was actually organic. And so, but they're having difficulty. It's my understanding that a large percentage of their employees are coming out of the Waterloo area. That they bus in quite a few employees. So we are working with them and to participate in any kind of job fair.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get something.
Yeah. So we are working there, and so there may be some opportunities, but I do know that there are employers in Charles City too that are looking for more too, so.
And another factor that always seems to occur is that they're going to be entitled to how many weeks of unemployment. So just because the plant closes in August doesn't mean you have 500 people available. That a certain number of them are going to take advantage of that unemployment.
Sure.
But we've gotten quite a bit of interest from the local employers, and so we will be working with them to help out as many as possible there. I don't see a huge influx of people from this opportunity. Yes, yeah, and those very quick. Okay, how about any provincial county?
Is there any other comments or questions? If not, we will move on. Thank you, Tony.
You bet.
I guess now we'll go down to items of note. And Barb, would you like to
Well,
start?
this is one I kind of want the supervisors to pay attention to because it might eventually come down to that you would have to sign a letter to the Department of Labor. Iowa Workforce Development, we had our meeting by conference call with 9 of the 15 regions represented in Iowa to decide if we were going to go higher up to the Department of Labor to appeal Iowa's decision to go from 16, I always forget if it's 15 or 16 regions down to 6. Terry Schumacher and Corey Eberling reported back on a meeting with Iowa's representatives led by Beth Townsend. And when our appeal, they had a meeting about it was for an appeal to them. And they were really uncomfortable with how the whole meeting went. They said the first thing that they started out with is they literally said they wanted a motion for denying their appeal before they'd even talked to them, which didn't look good. And we, as CEOs of Iowa Workforce Development, were never asked our opinion whatsoever as far as this change in the region. We are unsure if the Department of Labor even knows what our feelings are. We really don't know. We don't think that the way it was done was maybe even fully approved by the Department of Labor. We're real not sure about that. The proper state steps were not taken by the state. And one of the main problems would be people receiving these services. There's a good chance that we would lose the one stop at Mason City because we will now also be in a region with Waterloo, and so they would probably become the one stop. And so we would that would really affect, you know, workforce development. They help train people for jobs and help them get jobs and a number of things.
So what you're saying is we could lose the Mason City office?
We could, or it would just be like one area of it or something, yes, very possibly, that we could, yeah. There were 6 of the regions that didn't have to be in on this call, but that still means the majority were. Another thing it was mentioned is they said, or they had given us a letter in the first place saying that we were out of compliance, and that's why they were changing the regions, but nobody knows how they were out of compliance. No idea, not a clue. And then we also think that we're a rural area. We're gonna be a lot different than states that have big population cities. So it's gonna be different for us. We decided that we were gonna go ahead with our appeal and take it a step further to the Department of Labor. And we'll also contact our senators, and we'll, each region will write a letter, and that's what I'm thinking they might want you to end up signing this, which Heather Garcia, she's going to actually compile all our letters into one letter to send to the Department of Labor. And we're on a fairly short time frame because it was a 90-day appeal. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware in case it does come down to that we all need to sign something.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Bart. Stanley?
I had 2 meetings, the Upper Cedar. We had our annual meeting before the regular board meeting. We re-elected our officers. Right now, the Upper Cedar, we have completed, of course, our project from a 3 years ago. And we're still looking for other grants and opportunities, but right now we're basically on hold. So not a lot of activity there until the legislature steps up and decides that water quality should be an issue. Yesterday was NICOG, Council of Governments, and basically we accepted a budget of about 3.5% increase overall. We are going to be getting 14 new transit buses, but we operate a fleet of 91, so basically that still doesn't cover, I mean, supposedly we should be replacing every bus every 5 years. And last year, I believe we only got 2 buses. So we're not able to keep up again with really our replacements on buses. In a year and a half, Joe Myrie is probably going to retire. And so we had a little discussion about that. And basically, we feel that probably a year from now, we should be probably trying to hire an executive director that can work with Joe for about 6 months to really, again, understand the system, the operation, all of the players and so on and so forth. And we didn't carry that discussion any further, but at least we are aware that this is what is going to happen. At some point in time, we'll probably have to have a discussion. Well, we will. Do we advertise this nationally? Do we advertise this statewide? Do we advertise it locally? Because we might have at least one good candidate in house. But you still have to advertise it and so on, and how do we go about that? And so we had a little of that discussion. That was really my 2 meetings.
Joe's been there a long time. He was there when I was at the chamber, I know.
Well, Joe started at, he was actually at the Mason City for how many years, 12 or 15?
I don't know, but quite a while.
He's basically been between Mason City and Nycog, that's been his work experience, so.
Yeah, that makes sense to get somebody in 6 months ahead of time, so he gets a little hands-on training and in-house training.
Well, and again, you know, 20 years or 30 years of experience, you know a lot of players and so forth, you know the ins and outs of that. The new person doesn't have that, and this is also a concern for me as a citizen of Mitchell County, when we're going from 3 to 5 supervisors and all of us are either up for re-election, and if you have 5 new supervisors, again, look at the experience that you've lost. You have no experience. And I mean, I realize some people say, oh, that's good, start over. Well, no, that isn't good. I mean, there's a lot of, you can make a lot of mistakes just by not understanding what's happened in the past and the experience.
That means Lowell can't retire yet either, so they can ask him questions.
That's mine.
Okay. I didn't have really, only meeting I had was with Russ Kephart. And I actually think we had a pretty good meeting. He didn't get excited. I didn't push his buttons, but I was, you know, getting him to realize that maybe it would be a better deal if he could get out of the limits there of the people living in New Haven. I should say residential area there. I suggested that he would locate somewheres. We talked about a location. I says, you know, it won't quite be kosher yet, but at least it would be out of the residential area, and if it's out of sight and out of mind, the phone won't ring. And if we don't have a complaint, we're not going to follow up. So he's got that in mind. He's getting a dumpster in. Of course, we've heard that before. He says in 60 days, things should be changed around there. So we'll see how this transpires. I'm sure it won't go the way the neighbors want it to, but he sounded like he would be willing to work with us. So
I hope he does follow up on moving somewhere else. Then
Again.
And I feel bad that we have to even keep bugging him about this.
he's under the idea that he's grandfathered in where he was at, and I brought up the idea about the fence. He says, well, if I'm grandfathered in. I said, well, technically, you didn't get the fence up in time. Well, it didn't sink in, so he does think he's grandfathered in there, and I'm under the understanding that he's not. I think that's what the county attorney had indicated, that he didn't get it up on time, so
Right.
that it wasn't really a legit site for what's going on there. But anyways, Russ claims he's gonna try and do something, and I suggested to him that being that it's not incorporated, that maybe he ought to shoot some of his animals running around there, because we've had complaints about them. Russell doesn't have a gun, so the neighbors there are on their own. They'll have to shoot them themselves, but Russ can't, he doesn't have a gun. So anyways, that was the only.
I sympathize with him. Like I said, I don't like it that we have to always go after
No,
him. But I also understand how I would feel as a neighbor.
Yes, I did. I told him, I says, Russell, if we didn't have a foot to stand on here, we wouldn't be bothering you. But I says, we do. The county attorney says we can proceed. Let's try and resolve this without doing that. And he wasn't belligerent, didn't get out of hand, and it worked out fine.
I didn't think he would.
But we will see in 60 days how things are working out. Anyways, that was
Thanks for
Yeah.
doing that.
You bet. Manure management plan updates.
Have a brand new one, Shadow Fincher Farm. It's gonna be in section 4 of Jenkins Township.
Okay,
And I'll select.
that is brief. And we will move now down to public comments. Is anybody out there in the public got a comment? There he is, Charles.
I don't have a comment, I just have a question. That was either Friday or Saturday, I was riding around by the county shop. And why are those Nyakog buses sitting there? I think there was 3 of them.
That's where they store them.
That's where they don't take them home anymore?
No,
Oh, I didn't know
that's
that.
their new storage area.
Oh, a great place to park them right beside that salt pile, isn't it?
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought at the time, but that's the only really good spot they have for them.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Yeah, there was issues otherwise, and so they asked if we had a location, and basically, if I remember right, they even talked about possibly putting in the parking lot here next door at the county services, and that really wasn't
Well,
but, like I say, we got room out there, it's working, we got plug-ins, and
All sorts of parking lots in Osage.
Pardon the
Got all
logo.
sorts of parking lots in Osage they could park them.
Well,
Keep building new ones.
that idea of over here at the services though,
Couldn't
resist.
if we had that shed up and there was parking lot around that shed, there may be a spot there in the future, but that's for the future. We'll see how that works out. Anyways, is that your question there, Charles?
That was it.
And if there's no other comments, Stanley, Barb, you don't have anything to say?
yeah, say, just one, again, trying to promote Mitchell County as a good place to live, work, and play in that. I sent in a couple of suggestions to prison industries to come up with a couple of signs again that I asked them to have some proofs, and then I'd like to be able to present them to the board here in the next week or two to see if the board would like to do something along this line, or maybe a little different statement or whatever, but in any event, I'm working on it.
Okay. And that's anything, nothing else to be discussed?